Since I surprised you all the other day by speaking on the topic of feminism, I thought I might as well balance it out today before I get back into creationism. So, how many of you know what a MGTOW is? If you don't, I suggest you look at their frequently asked questions page linked in the description. It's not much different from this video. I wasn't sure if this video was for real, but then I watched a bunch of this guy's other videos, and unfortunately, I'm pretty well convinced now.
Hi everyone, Sandman here.
Hello, Sandman.
Today's video is brought to you by a donation from Dennis, and he didn't give me a specific topic, so I wanted to give men out there a warning about how women can turn you into a walking, talking zombie.
So Dennis, how do you feel now? Was that money well spent? I suppose it was. Nobody wants to be a walking, talking zombie.
Inside every single woman out there are hormones called copulins.
Is that in the same sense that there are special healing properties of homeopathic medicine? Otherwise known as tap water?
Anyways, with regards to my health, I'm not sure that many of you have actually noticed, but my voice is sort of back to normal recently. And I owe that in part to some homeopathic remedies I started taking for my tonsillitis, as well as my lymph nodes.
Oh, maybe you needed to drink more water for your tonsillitis.
It's greatly reduced the inflammation and almost got me back to normal. And the best part is I can take my medicine whenever I want because it's so heavily diluted that there are no side effects, and I can't believe that it started working almost immediately.
I can't believe it either. Which is why I don't.
And now I'm starting to think that getting a naturopath or homeopathic doctor would be a great thing because of the rapid healing I experienced when taking the medicine that most other serious doctors would consider completely false and a placebo.
And as far as I can tell, that sums up your entire thought process, Sandy. I experienced X when I tried Y, therefore X generally follows Y. I experienced better health when I tried homeopathic medicine, therefore better health generally follows taking homeopathic medicine. I experienced misery when I tried a relationship with a woman, therefore misery generally follows starting a relationship with a woman.
That are used to drug a man and control his mind.
Homeopathy is used for mind control? Oh, right, we're back on the other video now. Let me rewind a bit.
Inside every single woman out there are hormones called copulins that are used to drug a man and control his mind. This isn't some sort of conspiracy theory.
Technically, I suppose you're right, since I don't think you're suggesting that women get together in groups to fill their uteruses up with mind control hormones and cackle about their suspiciously unsuccessful plans for world domination.
And when I first heard about this, it reminded me of the original film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where aliens come down from another planet and take humans and turn us into pod people.
You said in a comment that this is supposed to be a late Halloween episode, so maybe it is supposed to be a joke, but I don't really see any indication of that. And considering that you're about this crazy in every single video and that facetious-sounding tone you're using is how you talk all the time, it's impossible for me to tell. I'm just going to proceed forward.
When I first heard about copulin hormones, I felt the same fear. And according to the article that I'm putting in the description called, the vagina produces a thick fluid known as copulin that has actual mind control effects on the male's brain.
That's not what the article is called. It's called The Chemistry of Copulins, How Women Are Drugging You. Apparently you missed that somehow and mistook the first sentence for the title.
If a man is exposed to a woman's copulins over time, she will be able to, number one, change, remove, or insert memories into the man's mind.
Okay, now you're just reading somebody else's article out loud. Somebody from a blog called Women Need Constant Supervision, who, very significantly, provided not one single source, scientific or otherwise, for his... Sorry, but I'm going out on a limb here and assuming Harvard Crimson 12 is a man. For his assertions, which are so crazy, I wonder if he had to type the article with his toes in a padded room.
Number two, tell the male what he sees, hears, feels, smells, and tastes.
Was I supposed to comment on something? I thought you were doing just fine, go on.
Number three, insert subconscious thoughts that will surface as his own ideas or behaviors later. And finally, number four, plant trigger words or actions that can cause thoughts, actions, or sensations in the male at later dates, i.e. weeks, days, or even months. That's what the article has to say, and it's kind of scary.
Does anyone else get that thing where you stay awake way too long and you start to get creeped out by every sound you hear? Sandman, do yourself a favor and go to bed. You need rest to be effective, man, trust me. Take a break and it'll all be better in the morning. Just let the Sandman come.
So at this point you're asking yourself, how do I protect myself from a woman that's trying to do this to me?
I am? Huh, I hadn't realized that. Carry on then.
And the easiest way to do this is to wear a condom.
Why would that help when this supposedly works through smell?
If you wear a condom, then the copulin hormone won't enter your penis and start to influence you fully.
Oh, of course. Silly me.
And I say fully because simply being around women, they're releasing these hormones into the air all the time.
But Sandman, that means every time you go to the store, the lady at the checkout counter is releasing mind control hormones. Are you even sure you're making this video of your own free will? I know I wouldn't.
Apparently they smell like butter, which is the smell I've noticed whenever I'm in a place where I notice girls walking around in their mid to late teenage years.
So you don't see girls in public outside the movie theater? What the hell is this? Seriously, is girls smelling like butter a stereotype I'm unaware of? I mean, if that's true, surely most people are aware of it. Most people can smell butter. Most people have been in the presence of teenage girls at some point in their life. And yet I've never heard anyone say they smell like butter.
And I'm guessing that those are the years when they release the most of these hormones when they're approaching their peak fertility.
You're guessing a lot of things. And women's peak fertility generally isn't in their mid to late teenage years. Wouldn't it make more sense for women in their 20s to smell like butter?
And I believe that it's quite likely that most white knights and manginas have sniffed and been exposed to a little bit too many of these copulin hormones, and thus they can't control themselves and can't behave.
You sound so much like a text-to-speech program that I can't tell if you're joking. I mean, white knights and manginas sound like terms you'd use in a joke about male feminists, but at the same time you use the word so matter-of-factly that I'm almost convinced you're serious.
They could be under a form of feminine mind control and completely unaware of it.
So could you be afraid, Sandman, be very afraid.
This is something that I've been increasingly aware of over the last few years. That simply being in the physical presence of an attractive woman starts me to alter my behavior.
Well then, maybe you should grow some self-respect and self-control and start acting how you want when you want. I mean, I thought you were all into this idea of being a man going your own way. And yet, based on what you just said, you sound emotionally incapable of doing that. You sound like a man going whatever way women tell him to.
And it goes beyond social and mental conditioning.
Oh, really? And how have you determined that exactly? Maybe you're just a weak, thirsty-ass fool with no dignity, who doesn't even have the self-control to keep from falling apart in a woman's presence. I can't see why else you'd unwillingly alter your behavior around women.
Almost as if I've started to go into autopilot, and I'm looking after their needs.
Fuck women! I don't need them! I'm going my own way! But whenever a woman stands near me, I lose all of my willpower and I kind of want to be her slave. You like to use words like beta and mangina? Well, if those words have ever had any meaning, that's it.
But besides just sniffing copulins in tiny amounts that are in the air all around us...
Oh yeah! And according to you, you're not even getting the full dose of copulins. Christ, man, you fall apart just from sniffing a little bit in the air? If you got the full dick injection, you'd go catatonic.
There's a more powerful delivery system for them that you probably aren't aware of. Apparently the female genitals squirt fluid into the male member, and that's how you get STDs.
They squirt fluid in. No. That is not how you get STDs. Hey, by the way, do you know there are different transmission methods for STDs? I just wanted to make you aware of that in case you ever have need of such knowledge, which you probably won't. Maybe you should also take some remedial sex ed.
But that's also how the copulins get inside you as a man, and how the female version of the Jedi mind trick works. On the other side of the coin, if a woman swallows sperm, it actually cures morning sickness.
We tried that. Didn't work until we added peanut butter and pickles.
So more pregnant women might actually think about spending more quality time with their men.
A word of advice to anyone who thinks to take this advice: don't accept a blowjob when your lady friend looks ready to throw up.
And semen entering a woman's body in any way supposedly boosts serotonin levels and acts as an antidepressant.
Based on one study done in 2002, which was a survey of 293 college women about their sexual activity and their mood, in which the result was that less depressive symptoms were indicated in the women who didn't use condoms. Or in other words, it's a single survey with a result that can't be used to assert causation of any kind, which, like most health stories, the media spun out of control to get attention. And which people like you accept with the expected level of skepticism.
Even sperm act like a utility for women. Women get the Jedi mind control vagina, and men get simp sperm. How's that for ironic?
It's not ironic at all, because the first one's definite bogus, and the second one is not only unconfirmed, but not even strongly implied by the original study.
Now I'm going to read to you how exactly the vagina monster is unleashed to control your mind through something called coupling.
Oh, good. I wouldn't want to accidentally unleash the vagina monster.
So here goes. Through the process of coupling, a female and male will lay relatively still without having sex with the penis inside the vagina. The process may take up to 15 minutes and work faster and more efficiently when the female is on top of the male. And during this period, the vagina injects up to half a cup, or 100 milliliters of the copulent fluid, into the urethral opening of the tip of the penis, which is chemically attracted to semen, and will follow the semen down the shaft directly into the testicles. After 15 minutes of coupling, the copulins will have entered the bloodstream and traveled through his testicles up into his hypothalamus, a section of the brain that controls hormones, causing the male to be completely influenced by the needs and suggestions of the female.
Or in other words, despite having no apparatus capable of anything like an injection, the vagina manages to force half a cup of liquid into the penis, all the way around the loop into the testicles, which despite the addition of all that fluid don't increase in volume no matter how little they are, and all this without the man noticing, despite him not even being distracted by active sex at the time, since apparently he needs to just sit still inside her for 15 minutes. Well, I don't see anything implausible about that.
So let me warn all of you guys listening out there. Don't enter a woman's vagina and overstay your welcome, because if you do, then you might actually have to deal with your own version of the invasion of the penis snatchers.
I've always wondered why they called it a snatch.
And the article goes on to say this. Some women report having conflicting issues of morality concerning coupling, as well as the effects of copulence producing a false sense of happiness in the male.
A false sense of happiness, isn't that a bit of an oxymoron? You either have a sense of happiness or you don't.
And others more boldly state that they see no problem with coupling and have coupled with their husbands while they were asleep. This is usually done in the morning when the male is naturally erect from a relaxing night of sleep.
Who are all these women you're talking about? They sound kind of like those people who think they're psychic and they can perform mind control, you know? Actually, they sound exactly like them, just with a weird sleep rape thing on top of the rest of the craziness.
And women have given testimonies about the influence of coupling and what effect it's had on their husbands. For example, they routinely do all the housework and are far more eager to spend time with the children.
So, women, nobody specific, just some anonymous women, told someone, somewhere, sometime, anecdotes about how they think their vagina catheters gave them psychic penis powers and made their men clean the house. Well, I'm convinced. Oh, and I also believe in faith healing and alien abductions now, too.
So besides the possibility of turning men into zombies, it also turns them into beta males.
I'm a beta, and I'm a beta, and we're both beta as fuck. If you're looking for an alpha male here, then you're shit out of luck.
But I want to warn you guys out there not to talk to women about coupling.
Yo, fuck! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Hey, what the hell?
You gotta get out of here! This is men's stuff!
In fact, I'm even scared to bring this topic up because there are women listening to this right now.
The women are coming! The women are coming! Duck and cover!
And some of them are probably thinking to themselves,
Oh, false alarm. Silly Sandman. They're women, you know they can't think.
thank you, Sandman, for teaching us how to control our men.
Hey, Ezet, have you figured out how to control me? Like you said, just wake me up every morning by getting on top and, oh.
The more time a man spends with a woman and has sex with her, the more his brain will be turned into putty in her hands.
Your last relationship must have been a real long one then, putty brain.
So there you have it, folks. People have known about these types of hormones for many centuries.
People have not known about hormones for many centuries.
Obviously, they didn't know about the science behind them and how it works, but they knew something was going on.
So they knew about the hormones, they just didn't know about the hormones. Well, make up your mind. Now look, obviously people have always realized that women can manipulate men, and conversely that men can manipulate women. They've always realized that men sometimes think with their dicks. And it's true that people secrete pheromones that can affect mood. But pheromones don't enable psychic mind control.
In my own life, I've rarely had sex without condoms, even in long-term relationships.
For some reason, I thought that sentence was going to end a lot earlier.
And I'm sure that to some extent it protected me from the copulence, but most of my partners basically wanted me not to use condoms.
Oh, so maybe it is a conspiracy theory.
And I've also fallen asleep during sex many times, and I'm glad that I was wearing a condom, because if I hadn't, who knows if I had actually coupled with her and woken up with the urge to become a permanent mangina.
If she wanted you to take the condom off so she could couple with you and start controlling your mind and you were asleep, couldn't she have just, I don't know, taken it off? Or cut the tip off and just done it anyway? Or are succubi just really, really incompetent?
And none of my friends have coupled with their partners or wives either, as far as I know, so the second link in the description actually describes one guy's experience of coupling and his thoughts about it. So let me read this to you as well.
So what you wanted to read is some random forum post on a website called personalpowermeditation.com, which is exactly where I'd expect to find a post about vaginas injecting mind control drugs into men's testicles in their sleep. I'm gonna skip most of it because I can find zany forum posts on anything you can think of, especially on websites like that. So I'll let you read just the very last part where he calls you a wingnut. Here goes.
Theories range from high-level oxytocin release, facilitating strong bonding, to legitimate mind control, the wingnut side of the spectrum.
By the way, if you want to see just how insane the person is who just said Sandman's opinions are on the wingnut side, read that forum post. Okay, back to you, Sandman.
And he certainly didn't describe the mind control effects, but then again, the woman that he was with didn't seem to do this to him.
No, he said he thought his penis had ingested the girl's vaginal mucus and created a chemical bond that made it hard to get over her. And then he called you a wingnut. You, the guy who thinks the woman could have consciously chosen to do this to him, that is, perform mind control.
Scientifically speaking, though, when a man gets a sniff of copulence, it does actually increase his testosterone and increases the pleasure sensations in his brain. And the rise in testosterone means that his fear level drops, probably making him more likely to ask a girl out.
Which has what precisely to do with mind control? Oh, and please don't say scientifically speaking ever again.
And the third link that I'm adding in the description goes on to say even more about copulence. The link is to a video called The Science of Sex Appeal, Female Copulence.
You're talking about a Discovery Channel documentary clip based on research by
Xenia Steinbach, Elisabeth Obersaucher,
and
Karl Grammer.
I found an abstract from a paper on their copulin research and I linked it below. It used a mixture of 5 volatile fatty acids called copulins, which is why, despite knowing about this from the start of the video, I said there are no hormones called copulins. The result was apparently an increase in male testosterone and, quite the contrary of turning them into zombies, a decrease in cooperative behavior, which is what we would expect since testosterone promotes aggressive, competitive, and dominant behavior, which really makes me question why you would claim that copulins would make them want to clean the house and take care of the kids. I don't know if the research is any good or not, and I really don't care because what they claim conflicts with what you claim either way.
And in the video, researchers exposed men to small amounts of copulins and then showed them pictures of women on a computer screen. The men that hadn't smelled the hormone were able to tell which women were attractive and which ones weren't simply by looking at the photograph. But the men that were exposed to copulins saw all of the women as equally attractive.
Oh, so now even you can't stick with the mind control thing? What, is it too crazy for you?
I don't know for sure about the copulins causing mind control in men, but anything's possible.
I don't know for sure about people growing their limbs back from faith healing either, but anything's possible.
But at the same time, I don't think too much research has been done on the effects of this fluid on a man's mind once it enters his body.
Then I really have to ask, why the fuck are you making this video? If you're interested, go do the research. If you're not, wait for someone else to do the research. But the blog post that's been the basis for most of what you've talked about should take about 1 minute to browse and then reject. It's totally unsourced and the author is clearly off his fucking rocker. For example, listen to this. Quote, if you are within 3 feet of an ovulating woman or group of them, your polypeptides are being replaced at a rate of 5% a minute with their copulins. End quote. Apparently, the mind control starts to work when 80% of the polypeptides in your hypothalamus have been replaced by copulins. Now, polypeptides are the basis of the proteins in your body. I'm not sure how this replacement is supposed to work or how it would possibly be restricted to the polypeptides just in the hypothalamus instead of in the entire body, but I don't think the author does either, so who cares? If the polypeptides in your hypothalamus were replaced at a rate of 5% a minute anytime you stood near an ovulating woman, you wouldn't have a hypothalamus. In fact, you wouldn't have had one since the first time your mother ovulated after your birth. Which makes me wonder how they've ever found one except in babies.
Or even if it enters his body at all.
You're just starting to question that now, are you? You couldn't have done that before you hit record?
But simply the smell of copulins shows that they work, sort of like a love potion or fragrance. Once a man smells them in the air, he sort of gets beer goggles. Every woman starts to look good to him, and testosterone reduces a man's ability to think clearly as he normally would.
That's an awfully mundane claim you've backed off to now. What's next? When a boy kisses a girl for the first time, he feels kind of funny?
This is interesting because some research suggests that men in relationships see their testosterone level drop, but if a man is constantly exposed to women's copulins, then that would actually raise his testosterone. How can both of these things be true? That's what I'm wondering.
So you think the research you're talking about conflicts with other research, and you haven't bothered to figure out why that is, and yet you still decided you had to waste your and my time making this stupid video.
My comments in the first half of this video might actually be crazy and inaccurate, but I also thought that they were very important to bring up.
They are crazy and inaccurate. They're obviously crazy and inaccurate, and that's why they're not important to bring up. How could the ravings of a madman possibly be important to bring up in any supposedly fact-based discussion? What the fuck is the point? You're killing me here.
And if I hadn't found him in the first place, then I wouldn't have learned about how copulence trick the male mind into thinking that unattractive women are actually attractive.
If what you actually wanted to talk about was some sort of chemical that makes men see women as more attractive, and you thought most of what you talked about here was crazy and inaccurate, then why didn't you lead with what you actually wanted to talk about and leave the rest out? But I have to say, I don't really believe at all that when you started writing the script you didn't believe what you were reading. It sounds to me like you were buying into it without really thinking about it at all. You know, it's almost as if the blogger had performed some kind of Jedi mind trick on you. Oh my god! I bet the Women Need Constant Supervision blog is a Trojan horse run by women! Quick, close the tab!
I'd love it if someone could actually find some good research on how copulins affect the male mind and if they truly turn us into manginas.
Jesus Christ, are you almost done?
Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills.
Judging by your whole video catalog, it sounds to me like you've been taking a daily dose of a whole rainbow of pills for a while now.
And remember, a red pill a day keeps the divorce lawyers away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.